Hey guys, I'm Kent Tilley, and today I want to talk to you about something that I think every Canadian that's close to retirement should know more about, and that is CPP. CPP is a lot more complex than the other two pension plans in Canada, which are OAS and GIS, and there are a lot of moving parts and different things that come with CPP, but today I'm going to talk about the top 3 things that I think every Canadian should understand about CPP, which is the Canada Pension Plan. CPP, or the Canada Pension Plan, is a critical piece of every Canadian's retirement plan, and one of the most confusing parts about it is, when are you supposed to take it? In the morning, with food, while you're driving? I'm not so sure. So we're going to talk about that today. And one of the first things that I'm going to talk about is, how is CPP calculated? Why are you getting the amount of money that you're getting from CPP? And that is a very complicated calculation, which is even more complicated today, because in 2019, the Canadian government decided to introduce something called the CPP enhancement, which basically, the basic premise of this was to say, since employers no longer have as many defined benefit pension plans or defined contribution pension plans, Canadians' retirements are going to suffer in the future, so they're basically forcing the younger generation and their employers to save more into CPP, which effectively is supposed to recreate a third of your income in retirement, whereas today the calculation is trying to reproduce about a quarter of your income in retirement. So that's what the CPP enhancement is. It's not something I'm going to get into in great detail today. Just know that the calculation is more complicated now than it was before. Now keep in mind, if your CPP enhancement lasts for longer than 4 hours, you're going to want to call 911. All right, so how is CPP calculated? And this is something that changes every single year. The percentage changes, the numbers change every single year. That's why it's hard for me to show you exactly how it's calculated, but I'm gonna do my best to explain how this works. If you are over 18 and you earn over $3,500 a year, you are, as an employee, you have to contribute money into CPP up to YMPE. And YMPE stands for the yearly maximum pensionable earnings. But you do not have to contribute to CPP if you make less than $3,500. This is just another in the long line of extremely lucky breaks that the poor in Canada get. They do not have to contribute to CPP, and they are so lucky that they make less than $3,500 a year. Now, YMPE in 2022 was $64,900. So if you take $64,900 minus $3,500, that is $61,400, and you are going to have to contribute CPP contributions off of your paychecks up to 11.7%. However, this is split between you and your employer. So they are paying half of that into CPP, and you are paying half of that into CPP. In other words, you are each paying 5.7% of your income into CPP every year. This has gone up quite dramatically since the CPP enhancement started, which when I started calculating this, that was 4.95% each. In 2023, that percentage is going to go up to 5.95%, which I think is the limit until they get into the next level of enhancement, which is even more complicated than this. So if you're good at math, now you know that you are paying $3,499.80 into CPP in 2022. And then you might notice, if you make more than YMPE, so if your salary, let's say, was exactly double YMPE, so $130,000 a year, then 6 months into the year, your paychecks are actually going to get larger because you are no longer contributing into CPP for that year. You've done it. One of the things that some of my clients do, which is quite smart, is they say, well, now that my paychecks are bigger, I'm going to take that excess and invest it into my RSP or TFSA or use it to pay down debt because you have this extra income now. And then you also have to think about the great things for the self-employed or the small business owners in Canada right now is that this is a really special time for us, is that we have to contribute more and more every single year. I have to contribute CPP for myself as the employer and the employee, and each year I have to contribute more money into the retirement plans of my employees while I'm being taxed to death by the government. So it's really good. It's really favorable for small businesses for sure. And you know, I'm actually really happy about it because I like that I'm being nickel and dime to death so that the large corporations in this country can get the much needed tax breaks that they need, because that I know will trickle down to the rest of us. And that's what's so great about it. So now that we understand YMPE, you have to understand that in order to get full CPP, you would have had to 100% funded CPP for 39 of the 47 years between 18 and 65 years old. And why is it 39 years instead of 47? Because the government has something called the general dropout provision, which allows every Canadian to take out their worst 8 earning years that do not get calculated into the CPP calculation. So basically, you could work full-time from 18 to 58 and then be entitled to full CPP because you contributed for 39 years. Generally, people go to school, maybe they're training, maybe they're just not earning money in their 20s, or they take a year off or whatever. So it's somewhat helpful to allow people to get maximum CPP. Now, if you were paying just 50% of YMPE for those 39 of 47 years, then you are going to be entitled to 50% of max CPP. I hope that starts to make sense. So that's why if you weren't making in today's dollars about $65,000 a year in your career, you will not get maximum CPP. Now there's another provision that allows primary caregivers of children to actually take out years because they were, on maternity or paternity leave. So basically what this says is that if you have a child, then you can potentially take out the next 7 years out of your CPP calculation. So if you had a baby in 2010 and then you had another baby in 2016, you can take out those first 6 years and then 7 years past 2016. So you can actually drop out the years between 2010 and 2023. And I did a stupid video a long time ago where I talked about how you could perfectly time the births of your children so that you could basically get max CPP by only contributing to it for like 1 year or something. I wouldn't necessarily recommend this as a strategy, but I think if you really want to time your babies with CPP, it's a really good financial decision that every young parent should really think about. Now, something that always gets talked about when we bring up CPP is, how much of a ripoff it is, and it's the worst thing for Canadians and all of this stuff. But what we need to actually look at is how much money were the retirees of today actually putting into CPP over their lifetime, and do they actually have a foot to stand on when they're complaining about how bad of a ripoff CPP is? So I decided that I was going to bring up the tables and look at how much somebody actually contributed to CPP over their lifetime compared to what they're getting today. So let's look at somebody that's 65 today and started working at 18 years old in 1976. As you can see, in 1976, YMPE was $8,300 and the contribution percentage was 1.8%. compared to 5.95% in 2023. That means in your first working year, you had to put in a whopping $135 into CPP as well as your employer. Crazy, hey? Like, think about 1976. That was a time when, babies could buy cigarettes and drinking and driving was legal. So what I wanted to do was I wanted to total up the maximum amount of money that somebody that started working at 18 years old and is 65 today would have contributed into CPP over their lifetime by using this chart. This number equates to $68,432.60 for the employee and for the employer. Now let's look at what CPP maximum is paying out today, which today, starting today, the maximum amount you can receive per month in CPP is $1,306.57, which means that it is going to take you 52 months to recoup the money that you put into CPP over your working life. That sounds like a pretty good deal to me. And it's actually better than that because CPP is indexed with inflation. So each month or quarter, your CPP is actually going to go up with inflation, and it's going to take less than 52 months to recoup this investment you put in there. You did not have to contribute very much into CPP in order to receive $1,300 a month for the remainder of your life, no matter how long that lasts. So now I know that I've lost probably half of my audience because you're saying you don't know how tough it was and whatever, but today's 30-year-olds have to put in basically 6% of their income into CPP, and when you were that age, you were putting in much less at a number of maybe 2% of your contributions of your salary. You were maybe putting about 2% of your salary into CPP when things cost a lot less. And the reason that we have to do this is to ensure that this plan remains solvent for you and us. So this is costing us a small fortune every year, whereas it did not cost that much back in the day. So I'm sorry to say this, but you are getting a pretty good deal with CPP compared to what we are going to get. Now, as I mentioned, the maximum amount that you can get in CPP if you're 65 years old in 2023 is $1,306.57 per month. This number is indexed to inflation, which is great. That means we all are really starting to understand how bad inflation can affect us over the years. So having a investment or a pension that is fully indexed to inflation is incredibly important because we don't know what is going to happen, how much things are going to cost in the future. And when we have inflation at 6, 7, 8%, it's very important that your pension keeps pace with that, while your investment portfolio likely won't, because you also have to outperform inflation with your investments, let alone even keeping up with it. So that is why CPP is such a critical part of your retirement income, because it's one of the safest bets that you have. Now, CPP is going to last for the remainder of your life, no matter how long you live. This is why a lot of people say, I want to take this now because I don't want to waste all this money that I put into the plan. I don't want to lose all this money. That's 60 grand that I put into this. I need this right now. And that's kind of what you're saying. Now, if you have a spouse and your spouse does not receive full CPP, then their survivor benefit is going to allow them to take your portion up to the maximum that an individual can receive. So if they were receiving $1,000 a month, they will get $306.57 extra for the remainder of their lives as sort of the spousal survivor part of it. Another really sweet thing with CPP is that it pays out a one-time death benefit to everybody that contributed to it of $2,500. And this is just an absolutely incredible amount, especially if you've never received any of the CPP that you ever got and you passed away before you got to receive it. This is completely tax-free, and that $2,500 is going to be able to buy like a super sweet sandwich tray at your funeral, and maybe even allow you to look really good with an open casket by getting some professional makeup done with some blush and some rouge, and you're gonna look really pretty. So, you know, that $2,500 is gonna be a big windfall for your family for sure. Now, one of the biggest things that every Canadian needs to know about CPP, and I know if you've watched any of my videos or, you know, Adam's at Parallel Wealth, we talk about this a lot, and which is the timing of CPP. I'm not going to talk about the timing of CPP. I'm just going to explain the difference of what you get taking it at different stages of your retirement. You are allowed to take CPP at any point in time between the ages of 60 and 70 years old. Now, the main calculation is based on retiring at 65 years old. And what they're going to do if you decide to take it earlier is they're going to reduce that amount that you're going to get based off of the maximum. So for every single month that you take it before your 65th birthday, you're going to get a 0.6% reduction in what you're going to receive for the remainder of your life, which equates to 7.2% a year, or a 36% reduction if you take it at 60 years old compared to 65. Now, what the government was also trying to do was sort of incentivize Canadians to potentially delay taking CPP. So if you decide to take CPP after 65 years old, you're going to get a 0.7% increase in what you're going to get every single month. And if you delay it that full 5 years until 70, that means you're going to get a 42% increase on what you would have received at 65 years old. Now, what you have to also remember is that this number that you start taking actually gets indexed to inflation. So basically, if you took it at 70 compared to 60, you're getting like a 2.2 times as much CPP, but that is also indexed to inflation for the remainder of your life. So that indexing is going to compound on itself and actually really work in your favor. So I'm not saying that everybody should take CPP at 70, because there are certainly factors that come into this that mean that Canadians should take it earlier or have to take it earlier. Most of those are based on, do you need the money, and do you expect to live a long time? Because if your health is poor, then you should be taking it earlier to actually get some of your money out of it. And if you need the money, of course you should take it. But if you are able to, most of the math suggests that Canadians should actually delay taking CPP until after 65 years old, even though about only 2% of Canadian retirees actually wait until 70 to receive CPP. So we can get into more and more reasons about the advantages and disadvantages of the timing of CPP. It is a very, very important retirement decision that I think everybody should work with a financial planner to come up with the right solution for themselves. Now, shameless plug here, we at K4 do this all the time with our $500 financial plans for retirees. We'll sit down with you, we'll talk with you about your numbers, what you have, what your CPP is going to be, and then we will help you decide when you should actually take CPP in order to make sure that you get the most out of your retirement and are able to live the way that you want in retirement. Which brings us to point number 3. How do you know how much CPP you're gonna get? and how do you actually apply for CPP. The only way to figure this out is to set up an account with Service Canada. And this is going to take anywhere between 15 and 750 business days for you to actually get your profile set up. So we have included the link in the description of this video for you to go and set up your CPP profile at Service Canada so that you can now know the approximate calculation of what you can receive at 60, 65, and 70. This will change if you are continuing to work, but if you're close to retirement, these are numbers that you're really going to want to know when you talk to your financial planner, us, about what you want to do with your CPP and OAS and potentially GIS along with your investments. Now, if you want to apply, you're going to have to use the following link that we will also share in the description of this video. And the application process is 5 steps. So step 1 is making sure that you're eligible to receive CPP, which means you have to be at least 60 years old and you have to at least made 1 contribution to CPP over the course of your working life. Step 2 is you need to decide when you want to take this. This can be as soon as you apply. This can be a later date that's already chosen and set for you. But this is something, like I said, that you're going to want to talk to somebody about before you just go ahead and make this decision. As soon as you qualify, you will start to receive CPP the month after your 65th birthday if that's when you chose to actually start taking CPP. Number 3, you can apply online using the link above after you've set up your profile, which will take, 1 to 2 weeks or, about 10 to 14 business days, or you can apply using a paper application which they have stated on the website will take at least 4 months. So I'm not sure what happens to that paper copy when you send it in there that it takes that much longer, but I guess I would suggest that you actually set up an online profile before you want to take CPP. Number 4, you apply, you submit the application, and number 5, you wait. And knowing the Canadian government, this could take a very long time. So I hope you learned a little bit about CPP. I hope you had some fun. Once again, if you have any questions about when you should take CPP, what's the best strategy for you, instead of going to talk to your buddy that doesn't understand anything about money or how these benefits work, I would recommend that you talk to a financial planner and they go through every step with you and say, this is how you're going to use it and time it with your other assets. It's very important to do this. So if you want to, you can certainly reach out to us. There are a number of other great financial planners in the country as well that should certainly be able to help you with this. So thanks again for watching. We hope to hear from you. And if you haven't already, please like and subscribe. We'd love to hear from you in the comments.